Good evening, everyone. This is Dolores Cannon with the Metaphysical Hour. And we're still getting ready for our conference, which is going to be the June the 18th to the 20th. This is our fifth conference, the ones we call the Transformation Conference, and it's going to be bigger than ever. So all the guests we've been having up until the conference are going to be those who will be speakers at the conference. So we want to interview them and find out more about them. But I do want to say, I filmed for the Project Camelot when I was out in Laughlin in February. And, I do a lot of filming and a whole lot of stuff, and I never know what's going to happen with it. But they told us whenever it came out on the Internet, it was going to really be a big response. And it's right now showing on the Project Camelot. It's on the Internet, isn't it?
Right. It came out this weekend.
On the website. They said they had over 1 million, at least, people that check in on that. And just in this last week, we are seeing a tremendous response. So you never know where these things are going to come from. The last one we did was when I did the George and Uri shows, with the Coast to Coast. We always have a tremendous response from them. But we were totally unprepared for the Project Camelot when it hit. So it's another one, and we're getting calls and orders and everything from all over the world. So that shows these things do reach long distances. Just like they say this show you're listening to now also goes out all over the world. We have been in Europe and in Australia, and people will tell us that they listen to the show. It's amazing. We sit here in the living room talking on the phone and never know what's going out there. I sometimes think I'm just talking to the wall. So there's a whole lot more people listening than you think there is. But the June the 18th to the 20th is the conference. This is going to be our fifth one. Every year it gets bigger and bigger. Our keynote this year is Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman. And
but she won't be doing a bionic feat, but she'll be doing, she might be. It's a oneness blessing that she'll be doing. So that could be considered a bionic feat. I don't know.
Well, she's going to do a 3-hour workshop. And we've been finding out, like last year we had Helen Reddy. We brought her from Australia. We're finding out a lot of these famous people who have been hiding their light under the bushel all these years. That, they didn't want people to know they were really interested in metaphysics. Now they're not afraid to come out anymore. And Lindsay Wagner has also been very much into metaphysics.
All her life.
All her life. So she's going to be the keynote. Then we're going to have Daniel Brinkley, the man who died 3 times and lived to tell the tale. And we're going to see if we can have his movie there, the movie they made about his what happened to him.
Right.
We're trying to get that to sell at the conference also. He's quite a character. A lot of you out there know him. He's been around a long time, talking about when he was hit by lightning and then the other 2 times he died after that. And we've got Sherri Edwards, who is a pioneer in sound healing. I started out with these people so many years ago in the beginning when none of us knew what we were doing. And we just kept going and going and trudging along. And a lot of us are still doing our thing. But Sherri Edwards started out that long ago. She's a pioneer now in sound healing. And she has her own organization and works with doctors all over the world. She's going to be she's at a workshop in sound healing.
Right.
Where you find your tone.
Right. Help each person find their own personal tone.
And then when you find your tone, you won't get sick.
Right.
And she's going to be giving away, I believe, free software, too.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out.
It's going to be really interesting. And Tricia McCannon is going to be there also. She's written a new book. I've known her forever, too, where she has done tons of research on the missing years of Jesus and where he was, all the secret organizations he was involved with, tracing all of this back. So her book just came out, and it's not by us, but she's an old friend, so I asked her to come to the conference.
Right. Well, and on her description, what she sent in, what else she's going to talk about is why that information is so important now in our evolution into 2012 and everything. So it's all tying everything together.
You mean getting away from what the church has hidden all these years?
I think it's just information that they had that it helps our ascension. It's just,
because they were highly advanced spiritual beings in those days, and they had the mystery schools. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of information that has been hidden all this time or destroyed and pushed away, and it's all coming back. They tried to get rid of us, but we're back.
That's right.
Okay. Let me give out the 800 number. I mean, not 800, it's a different number. The toll-free number, in case anyone wants to call in and ask questions tonight.
Of our topic that we are discussing.
Let's try not to go off of the topic and stay on what we're going to be discussing tonight. The toll-free number is 1-888-815-9756. 1-888-815-9756. Okay. Well, we have a guest tonight who is going to be a speaker at our conference, and we have published her book. It's Sherri Cortland, and she's with us live now from Orlando, where she lives. Her book is called The Windows of Opportunity. Sherri, you're there, aren't you?
I'm here.
Make sure you didn't go away.
I wouldn't dare.
The man we had last week, we called him in England. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was afraid he'd fall asleep before we got him on the air.
Oh, my gosh.
But you're only an hour ahead of us, so that's not too bad.
No, not at all. Not at all. Hi, Dolores. How are you?
Oh, we're busy. Okay.
Hi, Julie.
Sherri,
hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
But Sherri, before we get into what the book's about, I always like to start with letting people know about you and your background, because you don't have the kind of a background that you would associate with metaphysics and channeling or anything. So let's tell people about you yourself and how you got started and all of this.
Okay. Well, I am a businesswoman, and I do have a regular day job in the business world, but I have been studying metaphysics for more than 20 years. But it wasn't anything that I would ever talk about in my day job life because I didn't want to get fired. I really kind of stayed in the New Age closet, so to speak. But I've been with a large vacation resort here in Orlando for 18 years. Before that, I was the director of public relations for a children's educational theater company in New York. And before that, I was in insurance. So all very mainstream type of things. But during all of that time, and even from the time I was a young girl, I was reading everything I could possibly get my hands on to do with reincarnation and karma and UFOs and all of those other subjects that make people say, I don't think I'm going to promote her. I think I'll go to this person over here instead.
The normal people.
The normal people.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I was working, doing my regular jobs, doing all of my studying on the side, not really talking about it. And I was taking a psychic development class. And during that psychic development class, they were teaching us different topics each week. And one week we were learning about automatic writing. And during that session, during that class, one of my guides came through, and I started to do the automatic writing. And that was very, very exciting for me. And I started to do the automatic writing every day with my guide, Jeremy, in the morning before I would go off to work. And we were just going on like that, and I was very happy. Different guides would drop in and give me different tidbits of wisdom and information, and I was having a great time. Until Jeremy told me that he wanted me to write a book, that I had said that I would do this during this incarnation and that it was time to get going with it. And I truly never believed that I would write a book or that it would ever get published. And when I started to take dictation, actually there was a guide group for this book. It wasn't just Jeremy. when they started to give me these notes, I thought, I'll just humor them. I'll take the notes. This is never going to become a published book. And boy, was I surprised, because when I sent it out and I got a phone call from you, I thought that my friends were playing a joke on me, Dolores. I did not believe that it was really you on the phone.
Well, I think you said, though, whenever you first started the automatic writing in the class, it didn't all of a sudden just start and were they coming right in. It wasn't that easy, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was not quite that easy. In fact, I had been reading all of the Ruth Montgomery books, and I just thought it was so very cool the way that she would sit down at her kitchen table and Lily and Arthur Ford would come through her and give her all this great information, and she would put it into books. And I thought, I want to do that. I really want to do that too. I love to read books, but I'd like to get a little bit of information direct from the source. So I tried to do it at home, and I tried to do it for several months at home, and nothing was happening. And until that night in class, and just as I was saying to the people around me, I'm never going to be able to do this. This isn't going to happen for me. I could feel something grab a hold of my arm, my whole arm. It was very powerful, and my hand just started racing across the paper. And I was drawing, my gosh, the most beautiful circles you would ever see in your entire life. And figure eights, too. Had some figure eights thrown in there, and the teacher's yelling from across the room, control it, control it. And I'm thinking, control what? I don't know how to control it. You haven't finished the class yet, And after a few minutes, my hand just kind of fell over, and that was that. And for the next week or so, that's what was happening. I was getting circles every day and figure eights. And I called my teacher and I said, what should I do here? Because this is all fun, but I want some wisdom. I want some info here, I don't want to just be drawing circles. So she told me to start to ask questions like, who are you? Who is this who's trying to come through? And what's our relationship? And when I started to ask the questions, then the words started to form. And then Jeremy and I started to write with each other every day. I love automatic writing so much because you have a written record of everything that you get. It's great to go back and look at stuff, You don't have to remember everything that you get. You can always read it. So that's why I love automatic writing. And I've been doing automatic writing now since the 80s.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Because a lot of people channel, they don't remember what they say because they're another altered state, and all they know is stuff's coming out. But unless it's recorded, they can't remember what's going on.
Yeah. And a lot of people also are wide awake nowadays too, and they remember it. But I love the automatic writing because you do have that written record. Although I don't do it with pen and paper anymore. Nowadays I do it on the computer.
You're cheating.
I know, right?
Well, it's a lot easier.
Listen, when they tell you they want to dictate a book through you, you think about your hand. You'll go to the computer, too.
It's a lot easier on the computer, but I'm just kidding you.
I know.
You have to start somewhere anyway.
Absolutely. You know what? It was like being in a chat room with the guide group.
Yeah.
With the what?
Doing it on the
computer. In a chat room with the guide group. That's how I talk to them, I hear them, and I'm like the conscious channeler, and I hear them, and we talk back and forth. But like you said, there's no record of it, and I just have to remember what I was told. And you're right, it's always like a chat room.
It is. It's like a chat room.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
Julie's got to where she can just ask questions, and they'll come through and tell her.
I can actually do that as well, but I still prefer to write it all down.
Yeah. But sometimes
Julie, who are you writing with?
Pardon?
Who are you writing with?
I just know it's a group. When she regressed me about 8 years ago, I could tell it was a group of about 8 or so behind me, and I was like, that's who's always talking to me. And that's all I could feel. Somebody asked me, well, why didn't you turn around and look at them? And I said, that never occurred to me to look at them. I just knew I could feel it's like they're behind me, supporting me. And I was just like, I bet that's who I hear talking to me all the time. But it
so
felt
cool.
like 8 individual bodies.
Wow, 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of times now, though, when people just have a question and it's just spontaneous, and they'll ask it, and she'll say, I hear them saying thus and such. So that's why she doesn't, we don't have it written down, because it just happens so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's been helping on the radio show, because sometimes we have call-ins and somebody will ask a question, and she gets the answer in her head.
Yeah, they just, well, they answer it. It's not, they answer the question. So
yeah.
Well, there has to be a channel for it. That's the same thing I do. I'm a secretary to the guide group. That's what I am.
Exactly.
I take dictation.
You just repeat everything you hear.
And try and do it in the clearest way. I do. You know where I get a lot of straight information? This is going to sound very funny, but when I'm in the shower, I seem to get a lot of like word bubbles in my head, a lot of communication in the shower, maybe because it's so quiet in there.
It's quiet, and that's cleansing. They said it's like it's pure because of you're cleansing away stuff. So they're just like there's a purity there. So
that
I
makes
like
sense.
the word she used, word bubbles.
Yeah, tiny.
I like
bubbles.
them in a comic strip.
Yeah, she's saying tiny little bubbles. Okay. All right, but I think it's time now to talk about the book. And the book is Windows of Opportunity. And Sherri brings up some things that are in everybody's life, but I don't think people usually make the association, because we all have bad things that happen in our lives, negative things, and we don't stop to think of how it correlates and how it does fit into our life. We have to learn to look at things from a different perspective. So you want to talk a little bit about the book and what's in it? What do you mean by Windows of Opportunity?
I would love to talk about this. Thank you. Well, first of all, the whole purpose for this book, there's really one reason that the guide group wanted this to be out there. That's because they want to help us accelerate our spiritual growth. They want to help us finish our to-do list for this lifetime, but they want us to do it with less drama and less pain. So they figure that if we can understand more about what's going on in our lives, we can take control, recognize what's happening, and then progress faster that way. And so there are two main concepts in the book that I like to talk about. And the first one is relationship villains, and then that's going to lead into windows of opportunity. Relationship villains, according to the guide group, sometimes the people that we think of as annoying to us, people that we might consider to be our enemies, people that we just don't like them, those people are most likely our closest universal friends who have taken on a villain role for this lifetime in order to help us learn a particular lesson or to stay on the right path.
So Sherri, that's
relationships.
I'm sorry, Sherri, that's the one that will really mess with your head.
Yes, it will.
Yes.
It will. What are you thinking?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, exactly. I mean, because you keep going, it's like, oh, you want to hate that person, and then you have to bring that up, and it's like, that's my best friend.
I know.
Yeah.
And they're playing a role, and they're doing it really well, and the guides say that it's very much a sacrifice for our friends who, when we're best friends on the other side of the veil, but when we come over here, it's a sacrifice for someone to play a villain role for us, especially in the case of, say, an accident. And I'm not talking like a fender bender, but I'm talking about a real tragic accident, because someone who, quote unquote, caused an accident to happen, they open many, many, many windows of opportunity, but they also have to live with what happened for the rest of their lives. And maybe they have to go to jail. Maybe they have to go to rehabilitation. I mean, who knows? But there are lots of sacrifices that are made by those who are the villains in our lives.
But a lot of times there's karma involved, too, when they decide to play that role.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We've always had a relationship with that person in another life, and of course we forget when we come into this life.
Well, maybe that was a really good way to get rid of that karma or rectify that karma. So.
That's it. That's why, even though it looks negative, they've chosen to do that, and then now all the karma has been evened out and repaid. They have to suffer for it afterwards. But
Dolores,
what I found, whenever we're on the spirit side, before we're coming back, we do make contracts with people of what we're going to try to work out and, our roles we're going to play. And the different, we can switch everything around and the different parts and the contracts we make with these people. So some of these on the surface don't make sense, but we do agree to all of this on the other side.
We do. We sit at a planning table, so to speak, and we decide what karmic debts do we want to repay and how are we going to do it. And those are the windows of opportunity that I'm going to talk about in a minute. What experiences do we want to have for growth and learning? And then who's going to help us with it? And those are the relationship villains. They may be people that we have karma that we need to work out. They may just be our best friends who are willing to play a certain role so that we can get the learning that we just insist that we want to get during this particular incarnation. And, they can be with us for our entire lives, or they can pop in and out of our lives. They can be family members, coworkers, somebody at the post office or the DMV, they can turn up any place, even the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over.
I think the hardest ones are the ones that you live with, like your parents and your husbands, that give you a hard time. The ones that you're closest to and you have to be related to for a long time, those are the hardest ones, I think.
I think you're right.
They're teaching us,
I think you're right. And what the guide group says about that is that once we learn the lesson and we kind of walk through the window of opportunity, so to speak, I know I haven't talked about that yet, but at that point, our relationship with that villain is going to change. And for the most part, if it's a family member, then it's going to go to a different level that's just more palatable, easier to live with kind of thing. But if it's a friend or a coworker, something like that, it could be that we don't have any relationship with that person at all anymore. Our work together, our mission together could just be over, and we just kind of go our separate ways. It can go either way.
You said that too, Julie, that people come and go in your life. They're there for a reason, and sometimes you don't realize it till after the fact.
Yeah, but we put everybody in our lives. It's all created.
But afterwards you'll say, well, I did learn something from that person. Then they disappear out of your life again.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes we think, how come I'm not friends with this person anymore? And we haven't talked in a year or 2 years, or all this time has gone by. And we think about it as if it's a bad thing that we let that relationship go. But really it's not. It could just be that our time together was over. We have other things to go on to. They have other things to go on to. And if we hook up again, and rekindle that relationship, that's great, and I'm sure that there's a reason for that, too. Like you say, Julie, there's a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that stick with things long after they're over, and then it's not serving purpose anymore.
They do.
What kind of, because I know that we get signals that when it's time to go, and some people just go, they know it's time to go, but like these that stick to it, what kind of signals do you think they've been getting where they should have let it go?
The very best way to know if you haven't learned a lesson or if you haven't handled something properly is to look for your windows of opportunity. And your windows of opportunity, when we decide what it is that we want to learn, we have to decide how are we going to learn this lesson. So we'll create opportunities for ourselves when we get over here to learn a lesson. If we miss a lesson, if we miss a window, it's okay because we've set up several windows to learn the same lesson. And they get progressively harder as we miss one window and we go on to the next. Now, as far as how to spot these things, think about life scripts. Now, I never thought that I had a life script. If you told me I had a life script, I would think you were crazy, but my life is riddled with life scripts. And anybody who thinks they don't have one, just ask your friends or your family because they will quickly tell you all about your life scripts. But if you've got a life script, meaning that the same type of situation is happening over and over again, for some people, they might be involved with the same type of person. They might marry one kind of person and it doesn't work out. They divorce that person and then they're engaged to the same type of person, different body style, different color hair, but basically the same person. They're drawing that same type of person back to themselves because they didn't learn the lesson that they wanted to learn in the first place. So if you take the time to examine your past and see if you have a life script going. Are there a type of situation that continues to occur? And then you can kind of connect the dots to the present. Is there a similar type of situation going on in your life right now? It's a fair bet to say that you probably have a window of opportunity in front of you. So then what you need to do is you need to examine, how did I handle this situation in the past? Look at how you did it before. What changes could you make to handle it differently? Try something different with the one that's in front of you right now. If you don't have the situation coming back to you, then you know that you've handled it the right way. That's really the only way that I know to know that you've walked through a window of opportunity. Because the guide group loves to say to me, it's better to learn your lesson on the ground floor than it is in the penthouse. But how do you know? How do you know that you've got a lesson in front of you on the ground floor? The only way to know is that the situation doesn't present itself again. But if you've had something that's happened to you 2 or 3 times, you see that pattern there, look at how you handled it. When you've got it again in front of you, handle it in a different way. If it doesn't repeat itself, then you've walked through that window and you're able to move on. And obviously, the sooner that you walk through a window, the sooner you recognize a life script, the faster you can learn that lesson, work on it, be done with that, and move on to something else.
Yeah, I always say that, Earth is a school, but this is a kind of a school where you can't skip a grade, but you can have to take a grade over if you don't get it right the first time.
Oh, you know what? That is a beautiful explanation of windows of opportunity. We're taking that grade over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You're so right.
They they don't care how long it takes you to learn that one lesson and go through that one grade. You have eternity. But do you want to spend eternity on one little lesson?
No. Who wants that? And when we're on the other side, according to the guides, we can get a little bit cocky about learning these lessons. We think that we're going to wake up and see this window of opportunity and learn this lesson right away the first time that it pops up. But, of course, we're wide awake over there. Our eyes are open, And then when we get over here and we're more or less asleep, it's much more difficult to learn that lesson or spot those windows. And so we make these lessons for us progressively more difficult. We never think that we're going to go all the way to the penthouse. I think that we're very surprised when we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because over there, they always say it looks so easy. Oh, I can do that. That's no problem at all. I can handle emotions, love, hate, jealousy. No big deal until they get into the body, and then it's different. And you have everybody else's emotions to counteract with. It's not as easy as it looks on the other side. No.
Everything seems easier when we're over there.
Well, I was thinking when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, why can't when we set it up, it's like we'll set this window up with neon flashing lights so that we'll know it when we see it. And they said, but you do.
Exactly.
So why can't we notice it? She said it right after I was thinking that. She said, but we're too asleep. We don't recognize it.
We don't even realize the blinking light.
Right, because apparently they're flashing.
Yeah. We probably have the equivalent of fireworks going on at the very beginning, but we're just not recognizing it.
Right.
I like that, the neon lights.
Yeah, it was like, okay, let's make this, because I'm all the time, okay, let's do it like this. Let's make it so there's no mistaking. And they're like, but that's what you do. So we're just, we're just kind of really veiled over here.
Yeah, we are. But now more information's coming through. We can start to see, a life script now isn't just, he's just attracted to the same person over and over again. Now we can look at that and say, there's a lesson here to be learned. Mm-hmm. And then pick up on that, change our behavior. And that's the most important thing, changing our behavior. And that's the hardest thing in the world for us to do as human beings. We get very set in our ways, and we want to continue to do things the same way. But we have to alter the behavior when we have a life script. Otherwise, we're doomed to repeat it for the rest of this lifetime and, God forbid, into other lifetimes as well.
Yeah. And we've already have patterns from past lives, and we're still repeating and haven't learned the lesson and got rid of it.
We do. We carry them over because we're gonna learn the lessons eventually, because this is what we've set out for ourselves to do. I think something that people don't realize, and I wish, if I had one wish, it's that everyone would understand the part that they have in what happens to them during their lifetime. We plan the things that happen to us. And if we can recognize that and take responsibility for that, I think it would be easier for us to learn the lessons that we're here to learn.
The entire world as we know it would be completely different.
It would be, don't you think?
Absolutely, because behavior would be completely different. I mean, once you're responsible and you realize that you're responsible, everything would change. You know, everything.
Look how many people out there are playing the victim role.
Mm-hmm.
Poor me, look what happened to me. I hear it time and time again. Oh, I had this horrible childhood. My parents mistreated me. They beat me up every day, and all they do is focus on what happened during these bad times. My husband was mean to me. I'm never going to get out of these situations. They love to play the victim role.
They do, and if they realize that they chose their parents, it would be a whole other story.
Mm-hmm. To learn X, Y, Z, and da-da-da-da-da, and it's like, oh.
Because I have this again and again in my work whenever we're doing the sessions, they'll come through, and I ask, why did they have such a horrible childhood? And the answer is always, they chose it. But
That's
usually
right.
they choose it to learn how to survive, how to grow. Mm-hmm. But, when you're in the middle of it, you can't see that.
No, it's ugly.
It's just ugly.
But that's why I've had them go from a bad home, childhood, to go right into a bad marriage, which is the same situation. Then they go into another bad marriage because they haven't got it yet.
No, there's the life script and the windows of opportunity and the relationship villains right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all right there.
Trying so hard to help.
But once they finally once you finally understand it, then you go on to the next lesson, the next class, which may or may not be easier. It might be harder, but at least it's different.
But you're making progress, and you're growing spiritually, and you're crossing things off the to-do list. And if you wipe out everything that you wanted to accomplish, then you can enjoy this beautiful world of ours. Have some fun.
Yes.
There's no
it's not all about work here.
There's no reason to stay in that victim role at all. We have control over our life.
Dolores, I think, and Julie, I really feel that if they would start to teach metaphysics in elementary school, that we would not need quite so many psychiatrists. I think that if people realized what was going on and they took action, they learned the lesson, they understood why they might be in this particular circumstance, took action so that they didn't have to repeat it, we would all be able to move ahead faster. But we have to learn this stuff behind closed doors. I mean, you said it yourself. No one talked about these things when you started out.
Oh, yeah. But look at the same thing. If the churches would teach these basic concepts, look at how much better people would be. Yeah, I know what you mean. A lot of my clients that come to see me are what I call recovering Catholics.
Yeah, but just came through. But that's a relationship villain right there. That
it is.
The
church, the establishment is acting as a villain to help people to grow through that and everything. So it has its role. It's saying it has a very definite role. So
it does. I've given that a lot of thought too, Julie, because I feel like it's misleading. Yet it draws people to it. So there's got to be lessons there and opportunities there for people who need that particular lesson and opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell people that wherever they are is okay. If they're happy in the church, if everything is working well, that's where they're supposed to be. We're not supposed to change that. But if they're asking questions and they want to know more, then we have the answers, and there's a whole lot more. But you're not supposed to try to change people until they're ready to know.
Where I think some of the problem is some people think they have to stay just because they're supposed to, and it's like, to me, it's just a level of grade, and that you grow through, and when you're done, you can move on to something else. There's no reason. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to stay there when you have grown beyond it, and that's where
Absolutely.
I think the problem lies.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that sometimes people feel that they need to stay to protect other people, and instead of putting themselves first, they want to just protect others and help others?
Or martyr themselves?
Yeah, martyr themselves. Well, that would be the next step, because until you take care of yourself, you can't really help other people.
No.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it is just they're afraid to. They just have it. They stay there because they don't want comfort zone. They don't want other people to know they really have moved on.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point too. That makes sense.
But that's where I feel like that's when you're, or like you said, you're not there for the right reasons, and then you're not learning whatever. But that's where it's the problem to me. So
there's got to be growth. There has to be continued growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But everything's our lessons, and we have to go through it all. I've been told you can't go from kindergarten to college. You have to take it step by step. And if you don't learn at this time, you'll have to come back and do it again, because the law of karma, you don't get out of it.
Well, but you say have to, and I have a problem with that word. I mean, I realize it's a requirement.
Balance.
I realize it's a requirement, but when you say have to, it's like this dread and drudgery. And remember, we chose this.
Yeah.
We chose this whole wonderful growing thing to do. And so this is our privilege to be here.
It is.
But it's also
it is a privilege to be here. It is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't feel like it, but it is.
No, especially when we create all that wonderful drama. But
but it is a law. It has to be repaid. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, but we want to do it. This is our choice to be in this whole thing. I mean, we didn't have to do this.
No.
So.
No. There's a lot of instant karma going on now as well. Have you guys heard anything at all about that?
Oh,
Are you getting anything on instant karma?
Well, what I'm assuming, we'll have you define it, because what I'm thinking you might be talking, I call just the law of cause and effect. And
yes, but payback in the same lifetime. You don't have to wait until another lifetime. Maybe you don't even have to wait a week.
Maybe, a lot of times it happens the same day.
Yes.
Because, but in the old days when we weren't as advanced as we are now, you had to wait till the next lifetime before the circumstances were right. But now it's happening in the same lifetime. That's what I tell people. It's going to come around and bite you, because it's going to work itself out. Yeah. Maybe that's better than waiting until the next lifetime.
Well, I think part of what go ahead. I think part of that is too our development. We are to the point where we recognize it. That's why it's happening. So we recognize it when it's happening. So I mean, it comes back immediately, so you can get the lesson immediately.
That's what I was just going to ask you both. Do you think that the instant karma might be connected to our evolution as human beings? It seems like we're making a lot of progress very quickly.
Yes.
That's why I tell people, in order to move forward into the whole new thing we're going into, you've got to get rid of all the old karma. Forgive the people, let it go, release it, and then be aware if you are creating any new karma. And you can stop it before it goes any further.
Do you get anything, Sherri, on dimensional, like I'm getting something about dimensional karma. Do you get anything like that?
I have not ever gotten anything on that. That's fascinating.
Well, I think.
What do you know?
It just popped in when you said.
I'm writing it down now. Dimensional karma. Tell me everything you know.
I've not heard that word before.
Okay, I think this goes along with your convoluted theories. Okay, because it's twisting in my brain. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's along that line because it's twisting in my brain, and it's like, okay.
So I said my books are for those who want their minds bent like.
Well, when you said the instant karma, this opened this. So it's like this is where it went. It said, okay, dimensions, like you know how they talk about. Do you remember the Seth books back in the was it the 70s, 80s?
Yeah,
70s. Seth Speaks. I used to read those, and my brain would get it would hurt. So Those books, I mean, talk about convoluted theories. Oh, my goodness. Well, the last book, or the last thing I remember when I was reading them, the last vision, whatever, the visual that he gave in the book was a multi-dimensional game board, and he said, this is how your lives are. It's like, rather than, it's like the simultaneous time concept and everything.
Chessboard.
Right. It was like a chessboard, and you had like many layers to it, and a play on one level affected a play on another level and things like that. And you can see through the levels. And that was the last thing, and that was just such a new concept, and my brain really had a hard time wrapping around that. Where then, now, 30 years later, or 40, oh, shoot, that's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. But in one of your classes, it came up again. Some people were asking questions, and it came up again. It's like, this is something that's really important now. Well, anyway, just now when you said instant karma, there came that vision again of this game board.
Okay.
And it's showing, it's like maybe it has to do with and that's what I said, dimensional karma. So something to do with all these plays happening at the same time. Okay, it's the karma. I mean, yeah, you're affecting all these moves are affecting, and they're creating things, and you're clearing it up, and it's, oh man, oh my goodness, my brain.
Well, you've got 8 people standing there talking to you.
Yeah. And they're trying to throw me visuals, and that's where I'm trying to understand the visuals.
Oh, that's hard,
and the concepts, So,
well, let me ask you this. Is it possible that karma that we incur in this dimension, we might be able to pay back in another parallel universe?
They're saying yes, you're getting it.
Because if you want to get into the more complicated stuff, everything is all occurring at the same time, and we are living out all our past lives, all our future possibilities.
Right.
So it all can affect each other.
Okay, here they're showing that merging thing. Remember, we keep talking about this whole thing. That's why we can see these things now, because they're all coming back together now, all our pieces and parts. So that's the dimensional. It's all our different, like what you said, our different dimensional selves, our different everything cells are coming back together so we can see them all, and then that's the karma. That's just bam, bam, bam. But it's the dimensional karma.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I see you figured it out. Okay.
There's more to come. They said I'm just barely on.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
But we have found out, though, that we are dissolving a lot of the karma now because this is the time we're living in. That's why you have...
You know what they just said?
What?
It's almost non-existent.
Yes, except for the ones who are still stuck. They say the ones who are asleep, the ones who are still stuck in that old ways,
They said they don't count.
They don't count.
But they're human
they don't count.
beings,
Oh, you know
they
why?
have a long way to go.
Maybe because they're, with the whole transition to the new Earth, maybe for the ones who are making the transition, for that particular group, the karma is almost non-existent.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what they
said. Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what they said, and that's why we have to be careful not to make any more, because you don't want to be tied here.
Yeah, okay. The reason they say they don't count is, remember, you have this splitting happening. There's the two worlds.
Right.
Like you just said, Sherri, it's like, this group is evolving, going here. The other group has already decided, I'm not going. So it's already separating.
They
and
want to stay with the negativity.
They'll come along later,
created.
but in this timeline, they're not. That's not part of it. So
right, and that's okay. That's okay. So that's
right.
Yeah, they've said it doesn't matter. They will eventually go, but for right now, they're stuck with what they've created, and they stay with that. But the rest of us are wakening up. That's what they mean, the awakening, the opening up of the veil, to where we're beginning to understand these things, and everything is changing, and it's for the good.
It is, and I understand, too, that the veil is becoming thinner and thinner, and, I always like to tell people, there's nothing special about me because I can do automatic writing. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I even teach people how to do it in workshops now. But I think, from what I understand, the time is coming when we will be able to communicate with our family and friends who are still on the other side very easily from this side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, because there is it's just another dimension. Yeah. And seeing those layers, I mean, the lines between the dimensions are fading fast. So they'll be like they're just right
so
here.
It's so exciting, isn't it?
It is.
But that's what I've been told. The psychic abilities are coming back.
Right.
They never were really lost. It's just that in childhood and everything, we pushed them aside. But they're all coming back to where more and more people are going to have access to this, and it's going to become the norm.
Yes.
To where they're all opening up. And that's what it's all about, this time period right now.
Well, I'm excited about that because it's real hard to hide anything when everybody, when you have these abilities, everything's transparent, so you can't hide anything from anybody. You're just going to have to be honest.
Let's see how those bankers and insurance companies work when that happens, huh?
It might be a new system gets set up. What do you think?
I think so.
Well, with you working in the business world, you know what if you can read a lot of these people's minds,
She probably does.
Well, I'm actually in the timeshare industry, and everyone's mind is very easy to read when they walk in. I'm not buying timeshare.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. Well, do you want to talk about the automatic writing? She was talking about that.
Well, yeah, I was thinking in the book you tell people how to do the automatic writing step by step. I thought this might be a good way that you could say it here, just to tell them how to do it, just
briefly.
Well, simply, briefly, so they might want to try it. Do you want to do that?
Oh, it would be my pleasure to do that. First of all,
okay.
Yeah, step-by-step instructions. Well, when I first started out, the thing that my teacher told me was that it was very important to set a certain time of the day and to make an appointment with your guides and always come at that same time. And that's because our guides have lives too, and they're taking time out of what they're doing to be with us and work on this with us. So choose a time of the day that works for you, where you can sit undisturbed for at least 15 minutes, and when you're first getting started, make it the same time of day every day. Then sit with a pad of paper on the table in front of you and hold a pen or a pencil kind of loosely in your hand with the tip of the writing instrument touching the paper. You could use a computer keyboard if you want to. Just kind of hold your hands over ASDFJKL semi. And then say a prayer of protection. And that, I think, is very important. And I'm going to give you the one that my teacher gave to me back in 1987, and I still use it today. And you can change it. You can make it your own, but I would always do a prayer of protection. I am protected by the love of God. Only those entities of the highest intentions can pass through my door. If others should try, my door will immediately close, effectively blocking them out. This is my prayer of protection. Amen. Now you can rest, put your mind at ease. Everything's going to be cool. Nobody's going to come in and try and get you. And then right up at the top of the paper, write, will someone write with me? And now here comes the hard part. Clear your mind and wait.
And allow.
And if it helps to burn, yeah, right? And don't get discouraged. It takes patience and it takes perseverance. I've never known anybody who sat down and did it the first time that they tried, but I'm sure that it's happened for some people. It didn't happen that way for me. Also important to keep in mind, it's different for everybody. It took me months to get through, and I had pretty much given up on ever getting through, and the next thing I knew, I was having a book dictated through me this way. So clear your mind and wait.
It takes a lot of patience. You can't just give
does.
up right away.
No, you can't. You cannot give up. And burn incense, put candles on, that's cool too. If nothing happens within the first 5 minutes, just end the session because it's not going to be happening that day. And you just have to keep trying. It's just a matter of, again, patience and perseverance, sitting down, same time of the day, be comfortable, say the prayer of protection, write on top of the paper, will someone write with me? And then the hard part, clear your mind and wait. And it helps sometimes to meditate a little bit before. I always do that. I meditate a little bit beforehand. Now, do you want me to talk about what to do after the first connection?
Yes.
Okay. So you make your first connection, and for me, I can only tell you what it was like for me. It felt like someone was grasping my arm. So just like a bit of energy, just relax into it and let it happen. And if it happens for you like it happened for me, you'll probably experience circles or just like gobbledygook kind of stuff and back and forth movements with the pen or the pencil. And at that point in time, you have to take control. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. You can ask, who is this? Who are you? What is my relationship to you? What message do you have for me? So take control, and if you start to get little movements with the pen or pencil, write out, who are you? How do we know each other? What's our relationship? And don't go any further until you start to write words and you know who you're writing with, because you have a right to know who you're writing with. And then the next thing, ask the entity for a message. Do you have something to share with me? And then just write that down on the paper. Do you have something to share with me? And then wait for a response. And as you get information, you can ask questions. This is give and take. This isn't really being, I joke and say that I'm a secretary taking dictation, but that's not really how it is at all. It's very much a back and forth conversation. So whatever information you're getting, ask questions about what you're receiving if you don't understand what it is, or if you have a question for them, go ahead and ask it. And then just write it down and then wait for the response. And then when you and your guides are finished, you'll kind of feel the pen or your hands if you're typing kind of relax a little bit. And then always be sure to thank the guides for working with you. I always say thank you when we're finished, and my guides generally, they write go in peace. Now, I'll tell you something funny. When I switched from doing it on paper to doing it on the computer, my finger never went to the right place, and go in peace became go in peach. Go in peach. So,
okay.
And that's like a joke now. So it's never go in peace anymore. It's always go in peach. But that you'll kind of get your own routine going, and you just continue it. So that's pretty much how you do it. It's very simple, except for the patience part.
Right.
Yes, that's where a lot of people will fall by the wayside. They don't have the patience anymore. But I was thinking nowadays people do relate with the computer more. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning it would just be gobbledygook, I guess, whenever you started to type. It wouldn't make any sense.
Well, you have to place your fingers properly, I guess. That's why I was saying A, S, D, F, J, K, L, semi, going back to when I took typing in high school. Mm-hmm. But, I think if the spirits, the entities were taking over, I think that they would just make that happen. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Let's think about that. Do you need typing skills in order to do it on the computer? I don't know.
Well, nowadays everybody is computer literate and they type some way or another. But I was thinking, like you drawing the circles, you can't do that on the computer. It would just be typing nonsense at first.
Yeah, probably get nonsense. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh, what if the guides start to text now? Do you think they'll start to text us?
I have had, in my sessions, I've had them do weird things with electronics and my machine.
Yeah, they love the electronics, so they may very well.
I wouldn't put it past them at all to do something.
Oh, my goodness.
They're always playing tricks in my office when I'm with clients, and they think it's funny. They said,
they do have a sense of humor.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
People ask me that a lot. Do they have a sense of humor? And it's like, they're always, a lot of times I'll ask them something, it'll be like, which is obvious, and they'll go, duh, that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay.
They
really do.
Have fun, too.
Yeah.
But they do.
They laugh at us. So.
When I was starting to work on my second book, which is about to land on your desk, Dolores,
yeah.
I was lamenting why do all my guides have such plain names like Jeremy and Mary Ellen and Charles and Jeremy? Where are these big fancy schmancy names? And then because the guide that was coming through that dictated the second book, his name was Gilbert. And he said, Gilbert, yes. So he continued the pattern. And he said, I know that you want a guy to come through with a fancy schmancy name, but your real name isn't so fancy schmancy either.
Okay,
I thought that was
taken.
funny. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just looking for
Sherri,
the big fancy name.
Yeah. Well, Sherri, the hour has just flown by, really. But tell people how they can get a hold of you or contact you if they want to reach you. How do you want them to do it?
Well, they can go through www.Sherri, Sherri, Cortland, Cortland.com. And if you go onto that website, you can download Chapter 1 of Windows of Opportunity for free.
Oh, okay.
And if anyone has any questions about automatic writing, you can email me through the website, or you can email me at S as in Sam, Cortland, Cortland, at C as in Charlie, F as in Frank, L as in Laura, .rr.com.
Okay. And that way anybody can get a hold of you if they want to ask questions then.
Yes. And you can get Windows of Opportunity at ozarkmountain.com.
Okay. That's what I was going to give out our website next, But
see that I beat there.
Sherri is going to be at the conference on June the 18th to the 20th. She'll be a speaker, and she'll be there with her books and to answer anybody's questions. So you'll be able to see her in person there. Okay. And I was going to give out our website, www.ozarkmountain, but it's abbreviated. But we have Ozark Mountain Publishing, so it's abbreviated, OZARKMT.com. Or if you're overseas, it's OZARKMT.com. Or if you want to call us, it's 1-800-935-0045. And I do want to say that next Friday, next weekend, I'm going to be in Asheville, North Carolina. And I'm going to be doing a lecture there, next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, the 12th, I'm going to be doing a lecture there in Asheville. Then I'm going to be doing one of my classes the whole weekend. And we're getting a big response. So if anybody's interested in taking my class, you can contact us through the website, ozarkmountain.com, or call and find out more about it. And we only have one more in the States this year, and that's going to be in Arkansas in August.
Right, it'll be Arkansas and Nebraska. It's somewhere in the middle here.
The middle.
So. Mm-hmm.
And then we start our trips out of the country again. If anybody wants to find out about anything dealing with the conference or books or anything, check out the website. So now I think it's about time to say goodnight. So thanks, everyone, for listening.
And it's been wonderful talking to you, Sherri.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I can't wait to see you next month.
And thanks for coming on. Okay, so good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed the show, check out more of our other videos and be sure to subscribe and click the like button. Thank you for listening to the Metaphysical Hour with Dolores Cannon.